Hey everybody, so this is part two in the Wwise Unity integration series. This is like the new tutorials that overwrite the old ones. We're going to talk about events next. An event basically can trigger a, uh, a, a section of music to play or to branch from one state to another. That's what events are for, and it's a way for the game to communicate back over to Wwise. So we're going to create just a couple. In fact, it gives you a list of the different types of events you can have. So the first thing I want to do for one of my events is I'm going to start it with a state change. So I'm going to set the state to, let's say, we're going to set the state to none first. And once we select it here, you can see I set state, but I have to make sure to set the state down here. Basically, I'm setting up like a container for it to actually change a specific state. So I'm going to do game state, and I'm going to set it to none, like that. I'm going to save that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do another one where another new event where I play, oops, sorry, up here, new child, and then we are going to play our, let's see, we're going to play, and then it's going to give me some options. So play, and then I'm going to browse, and I'm going to play my switch container there. So it's playing my switch container. I also can delay the timing of that and put a fade in time if I want on it. So I'm going to play it, but we're stuck. The state is none. In fact, I could put all this in one, so let me do that. That makes a little bit more sense. What I'll do is have my game state in none, like that, set state none, and then do play. So you can have multiple events, and after I hit play, I can then set my state to explore. So it's like I'm resetting it first, and then playing the container from none, going into explore. And so I can actually get rid of this one. So I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to rename this play event so it's a little bit more, makes more sense. So we'll call this start switch explore. It's not, so this is start music switch is what I'm going to do. Music switch and put it into explore. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one which actually just sets the state. So we'll set this state and set it, I'm going to name it set state chase, and then I'm going to set it up. Right now, remember, it's missing because I just put a placeholder in it for it. I'll change the game state and change it to chase. I don't have to restart the object here. I don't have to play it again because it will already be playing. And I'll do one for fight and then one for none. So create a placeholder, set state fight, and another one called set state none. Set state none. I didn't set up the last one, so I have to go back to fight and then make sure that is selected. Group is game state, and then make sure it's fight. And then none, I'll do the same thing with. Game state, and set that up so that is none. So we have fight changes the state to fight, chase changes the state to chase, none changes it to none, and then this start basically will set it to none and play the switch container. Okay, so it's like a reset almost. I'm going to save those, and then I'm going to go to the sound banks tab because I have to create a new sound bank. I can right click, and we want to create a new sound bank, and we'll just call it level 1 sound bank, like so. Okay, and then within our sound bank we want to add events to it, and so there are a couple different ways to do this. I usually like to go to the sound bank layout for this because it's a little bit easier, and then we can start adding things into our sound bank. So if we look at our sound banks, we can see level 1 sound bank here, and then we want to add some things to it. So if I hit the add tab, let's see, I have to add them, and the way to do that is to bring up our events and then drag them in, and I'm going to take all 4 of these and drag it into our sound bank so these get exported for our game. The way that Unity will see the Wwise data is through these events, and I have to make sure that those events are placed in the sound bank. So I basically set them up in the sound bank, then I select them, I select my platform. I'm going to do both Mac and Windows, hit English, and then I'm going to save, Control S, because up here see the asterisk, now it's gone. Then, because I just hit Control S, and then I just hit generate, and that generates those sound banks. And now we are ready to kind of deal with the Unity side of things. So I'm going to close Wwise for now. I'll open it up. I can open it up later. Basically, we're going to want to build a small project now in Unity. So I'm going to hide that. Here we go. Here's my branching Wwise project, and you can actually see that there would be a folder called Generated Sound Banks. Inside of that, you'll see Mac and Windows. And this is the sound banks that I just made, and it was in English. So it's this is my level bank here, and right now it's probably pretty big because I didn't really do any compression, just use the default compression on it. Alright, so now we pull up Unity. So this is what I want you to do. Start with a brand new, fresh Unity project. And this is the latest version of Unity. I'll double click on it, and I'll create a brand new project on my desktop. So create a new project, new Unity project, and I'll name it like M Suite. I'll name it Michael Suite Wwise. I'm not sure what the assignment says. I think it's Wwise Unity, possibly. Then I'll create the project, and I'll put it on my desktop, and you'll see it here, Wwise Unity. Then it will bring up the project here. And what we'll basically do is build a really quick scene. Okay, it's loaded. I'm going to hit Command S and save my scene, and we'll call it Level 1 Scene. Okay? Now what we can do is now we have a little template for our project, and I'm actually going to quit out. So quit out of Unity. Basically, I've just built this project, and now when I open up the Wwise launcher, look what happens. I'm in the Wwise launcher. I press Unity, and it has it right here, and I can integrate Wwise into the project. It's best if you save and exit out of Unity before you do this. I think you could do it while it's running, but I generally like to quit out of Unity before I do this. You hit integrate Wwise into project. And then it's going to gather all that stuff up. And then what you want to do is you want to enter your Wwise project path. Now, to keep everything together, what I suggest doing is dropping your branching project into your Wwise folder. Into your Unity folder. And then when you select your project path, you can go down here and say Browse, and then select it. So I'll go to my desktop, I'll go to, let's see, my project here, and here's my branching Wwise project. And there is the project file. Hit OK. So it's basically all set up right in here. And go ahead and hit the integrate button. And then it applies that by downloading the stuff from the sort of the latest version from Audiokinetic, and it implements that directly into the project. And it knows what version of Unity I'm using, so likely going to load up the correct version. It's basically going to pull the right Unity plugin for Wwise, the same one that I'm using. So, and that's all cool, and it's almost done. And then we'll build a quick level, and you'll be able to check that out. this is the really excellent, cool part where we wait. All right, now it's completed successfully. I'm going to quit out of Wwise Launcher. I'm going to open up Unity again. Here we are, Unity. And I'm going to go into my project that I created. And we're going to notice a couple of things which are really cool. One of the things that we're going to notice is that we have a new Wwise Global. We also have a Wwise Picker tab. I'm going to go back to our scene. Our scene, when I double click on it, has Wwise Global in it. This is the thing that basically will run Wwise. And it already has a path for our sound bank. So we could have it play music right now if we wanted to. If you go to the Wwise Picker tab, you can actually, remember that event that we created? We can see that event right in here. Start Music, Switch, Explore. We can actually drag it to the Wwise Global. Sometimes the dragging's like a little funky, so sometimes you have to click it a few times and drag. You don't have to add a rigid body. That's kind of if it's a diegetic sound in the world. And we can see that has some parameters here. When does it happen? Well, it happens on start. Well, that's good. So when I hit play, it should basically call this event, which is really cool. So I'm going to do that. Cross my fingers. And the Wwise ID is not found. So hang on a second. And basically, that ID is not found yet because I haven't loaded the sound bank. So what I want to do actually before I play it is to actually load my sound bank into it. So I'm going to load my sound bank, and I'm going to drag that object over here. And on start, I'm going to load my bank. Now, I may have to do that before it calls this, and I may have to figure out the order, but let me hit play and see what happens. Nope, it actually found it, and now it's playing a piece of music, which is really great. All right, let me create like a little scene here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a plane, like so. Here's my plane. And what I'm then going to do is create like a 3D object, like a cube. So I have this cube, and because I'm really into 2001 right now, I'm going to make it, what's the scale of that? 4 by 9 by something? 4 by 3? I think it's 1 by 4 by 3. It doesn't quite look right. It needs to be taller. All right, anyways, that's my obelisk. And what I'm then going to do with my obelisk is I have a couple different objects. I'm going to leave my obelisk there and put is trigger. And then I'm going to choose, let's go into chase next. So I drag chase over. And on this, I can basically say, when does the chase start? I want it to start on not start. I'm going to change it to nothing first because I can have multiple things selected. I'm going to do on, trigger, collision, enter. Or just actually AK trigger enter is good. Like that. And this would be great and work fine if I had like a little person to move around. In order to do that, I have to import some of those assets. So let's do that. Let's go to our assets menu and import some assets. And import package. Let's import the characters. And it's going to decompress those. It's going to put up the like the assets that's going to import. I'm going to go ahead and import all those. It's going to populate my project with those. And then I'm going to put a person in my world. Almost done. Okay. My project, I'm going to go into standard assets and wait for the rainbow spinning ball of Mac death. Okay. And then I'm going to go into characters and then wait some more. Maybe I should save. This is one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm going to crash. All right, so I save. Then I'm going to bring in, I like the first person controller, prefab, and let's bring the first person controller into our world and make sure he doesn't fall through our plane. And then the other thing, I want to look at our main camera. You can see here that there's an AK audio listener on it, so if I get rid of the other camera, it's going to get rid of our AK audio listener. This is our listener. This is basically what allows Unity to sort of hear the world. So let's not get rid of this. If you do get rid of it, make sure you add it onto the camera that's attached to the first person character. So now when I play, so it's playing that. I'm going to let it get into, remember this is the intro, and then we're going to go into our next section, which is the Explore section. I'm going to let it start playing the Explore. We're in Explore. I'm going to collide with that, and then it should go into, after this ends, into the chase, which it did. And so it's running. Now to finish up your projects, I would do a couple of things. One, the plane is really small, so let's go ahead and increase the scale of that so that your X is much larger and your V is much larger, so you have a lot more room to walk around on. And then you're going to want to create a few more objects that you can collide in. So let me do one more. So let me create one more 3D object, and I'm going to create a sphere. And the sphere looks awfully small, so I'm going to move it over there. I'm also going to take the first person controller, this one here, and I'm going to move him back a little bit. Sphere, too small, so I'm going to change this to 3, 3, and 3. Now they look a little bit better. Make sure it's above the plane too, otherwise it will theoretically be colliding with the plane or triggering it because it's colliding with it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my Wwise Picker tab. And now this one will take me to Fight. So go to Fight, and I don't want it to happen on Start. I want it to happen on Trigger Enter, like that. And then I have to make sure that the trigger is set there. And then, so I'm going to go directly from Explore into Fight next. And remember, that's a little bit faster tempo. So this is the intro. And so that's the intro. Now we're in Explore. I'm going to let it play the first phrase. I'm also going to let it play the second phrase coming up. And then I just collided with it, so I'm going to go to Fight right after this phrase. Right there. I can actually go back to the other state, which is Chase. A little bit slower tempo. And then go back to Fight at the end of this phrase. And that's how you get it all working together. Let me know if you have questions, and good luck.